Hi. Okay, I am live. I am going to be answering questions that have been submitted ahead of time at askdanakWhite.com, right there. You can go there to submit questions for future lives. And I will take a few questions from those who are watching once we get through these questions here. So, good morning. All right. You can hear me. Thank you, Sarah. I was just about to ask, making sure that you can hear me, because if you've been, what is that? If you've been around much, you know that I had more than one time where I talked for a while and either wasn't even on or was, muted or something. So anyway, here we go. Just a reminder, if you would like immediate feedback, I'm not going to say necessarily answers, but if you would like to have people to talk about this stuff with, I just highly recommend that you consider being a patron through patreon.com/aslobcomesclean. That is a great place. It's a great community of people who speak this language and talk about decluttering and home management in the way that I talk about it. So it's a fun group. All right, here we go. Let's see. Oh, let me get my, sorry. Let me get my questions over here. Wait, okay. Sorry, I usually have it a little more organized than that. But anyway, sorry. Y'all don't even know what's going on. It's a technical, keeps covering up my stuff. All right, so here we go. First question. I have 6 kids and my house is organized. The problem is clothes. My kids have so many clothes. I've tried everything, but no matter what, my kids' clothes and laundry room can't stay clutter-free because of the clothes. Help, please, it says. So what you see up there is the edited down version. I read the whole version, usually almost the whole version of what somebody actually asked. So 6 kids, your house is organized. I mean, first of all, I want you to take a deep breath and be proud of yourself, because I know that you have put a lot of work in to be able to say that, and that you do a lot of work to keep that up. So let's talk about clothing specifically. The first thing I would say is to embrace the container concept, which I know feels like, okay, she says that all the time, but it's basically always true, right? The container concept, when I say that, what I'm saying is space is finite. Space determines the amount of stuff that you can have. It is very easy, especially with clothing, to start doing math and to start thinking through, like, okay, well, they need this many clothes for school, and then they generally change into play clothes when they get home, or these kids are in athletics, and so that's that many things, and then this, and start doing the math, and that can get very overwhelming. And instead, letting the container make the decisions for you, the hard decisions for you. So clothing containers will be drawers, closets, shelves, wherever it is that you keep clothing, that determines how many you can have, because otherwise it's easy for your brain to spin out and to think of all these different possibilities, when the reality is the space that you have is the space that you have. If you want it to be under control, it has to fit into that space. But let's talk about this, because there might be like a little more to the story here. So clothes are overwhelming to you. I am going to say that for me, getting a laundry routine down, which I'm going to talk about another question from a different person later, that, there might be some elements of this issue in here too. But getting a laundry routine down really helped. And for me, that was a laundry day. For a lot of people, it's one load a day. That never worked for me, because I would always forget about the load, and then it would sit in there and it would start to stink, and I would wash the same load over and over and over, right? So I, finding a laundry routine that does work for you, whether that is managing the kids doing their own laundry or coming up, with a way to do that. I know with large families that can be difficult. I do have a post on my blog. Sorry that I didn't think to link to it in the show notes, but I do have a post there about a large family laundry day. So what she does is she divides it up, and she's like, I do kids laundry on this day, I do adult laundry on this day, which with 6 kids, you may have some that are adult size and could, kind of be split up that way. And then I do, household laundry or whatever on another day, but it's the idea of it having an end. So it's not so much about, oh, I got to get all this done in one day. It's about laundry, which feels never ending, having a beginning, a middle, and an end. I'm not going to get into all of that here today because it's a lot to wrap your brain around. I'm just saying that might be that generally is the first step, because what that did for me is it also gave me confidence that I could get rid of clothes. As long as clothing was out of control, as long as I didn't have a laundry routine, I tended to always think we needed more clothes and that we didn't have enough. Okay. It didn't make sense. It wasn't me going, this is not enough clothes, looking at all the clothes that were in piles and on the floor and backed up in the laundry room and all this kind of stuff. It was just this feeling that we didn't have enough clothes. And so we're always bringing clothes in because we're always behind on laundry, which made us feel like we didn't have enough, which made me feel like we needed more, which made laundry more overwhelming, blah, blah, blah. Okay. So laundry routine, embracing the realities of the spaces that they have. Okay. And I know this all sounds like I'm oversimplifying. Okay. Except that the theme today in a lot of these answers that I'm going to give is less, fewer. Okay. If laundry is overwhelming you, you have too many clothes. And I know that it feels like, oh, but I have 6 kids, and so I have to have this many clothes. And that very well might be true. But for the vast majority of people, most of us have too many clothes anyway. Like even after having decluttered, I can go, you know what? I've got too many clothes, and I declutter some more, and I declutter some more. So it's like anytime where you feel overwhelmed with a specific area of your home, declutter, 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 declutter. Okay. I have a video where I talk about going through the 5 steps, the 5 decluttering steps, specifically with clothing, and applying that to, each step to clothing specifically. But my number one thing would be to go ahead and start on a laundry routine. Just give it a try. See if the 1 load a day works. See if the having your kids do it. See if a laundry day works. Give that a shot. And as you're doing that, every time something comes out of the dryer, if it's not something that you have seen your kids wear, if it's something that is outgrown, if it's something that's damaged, whatever, get rid of it. Okay. So declutter, 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 lessen the number of clothes. Okay. Because it is very possible that this is your clutter threshold. Okay. But you may not know that until you get your laundry routine under control. Because remember, like I was saying, as long as I had too many clothes, as long as I was behind on laundry, it always felt like I needed more clothes. So it's like I had to kind of move through this before I started to really trust we have enough clothes. So work on those things. And then, little by little, after you've purged the easy stuff, okay, the things that are damaged or outgrown or whatever, get rid of that stuff and then really embrace the container concept with clothing. All right. So with 6 kids, I'm assuming, and you say your house is organized, I'm assuming it's like, this is your section of the closet. These are your drawers. This is blah, blah. So let's embrace this. And let's say, put your favorite things in there first. Because the other thing too, for me, the big thing with laundry day, once I got laundry under control, that was when I realized what my favorite clothes were and what my kids' favorite clothes were. I didn't have a good idea of what we liked the most as long as we didn't have a laundry routine and we were just wearing everything because we were just wearing whatever was clean. But once everything was clean all at one time, consistently, then I saw, oh, my kid wears this shirt first every time it's clean. He's going to always wear that shirt. And so then it let me get rid of the stuff that was kind of like last tier of clothing, the stuff that we don't really actually want to. So work on that and then embrace that container concept of, let's put your favorite things into this space first so that we just purge, get it down to being a lot fewer clothes, work on that routine. And I think it will help. Okay. As someone who has kids that have gone out of the house, I mean, we have a lot less laundry now that certain people are gone. Of course, my kids do their own laundry now anyway, but I mean, like, there's just, and so and I know you know this. Like, I know you know this, and you're like, I appreciate it, but I also don't want to be like, just appreciate it, because I know it's hard. So you're like, what can I do? Well, it's always easier to manage things when you have less of it. So as long as it's overwhelming to you, less, 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 less. Okay. And I know, like, I'm assuming with 6 kids, you've got some that are older and it's a little bit harder. The ones that you work on your own clothes first, then also, the kids who you have more say in their stuff, work on their stuff first, because that's something that's easier, right? So we do the easy stuff first to start building momentum and start to really gain that confidence in decluttering, and then work through that. But I mean, the answer is always going to be have fewer clothes. I mean, it's not always going to be that. I'm just saying, like, if you're overwhelmed in a space, it means there's too much stuff in that space. And I know it can feel, because it can feel like clothing is all useful, right? Because we have to wear it. So all those things together, really work. Okay. I don't know if that was helpful or not. Let's see. Let's talk about, okay, this one says, hi, Dana, please forgive me if this has already been addressed, but I have not been able to find anything in your videos about it. The refrigerator. How do you work this into your normal routine so it doesn't end up as one big science project? Okay. So she's asking about normal routine and making this something to do consistently. I don't have every third Thursday, I clean out the fridge. I wish I did. Like, that's who I want to be, or I used to want to be that person. I don't want to be that person anymore, because I'm like, I'm fine with who I am, because I found ways to work for my personality. Okay. So that's kind of what I'm saying here is, like, I used to think this way, that the only answer was to get, like, I've got to do this at a certain time all the time. And then I would not do it. And then I would think I'm hopeless. Okay. So what I do is I have fewer food storage containers. It's kind of like just what we talked about in the last one. It's like, if something is overwhelming you, then there's clutter there. It needs to have less in it. And it can feel like, oh, but I need all this stuff. So the first thing I would say to do is go declutter your food storage containers. Like, that's the number one thing, because the way that I keep from having a bunch of science projects in there, not that the occasional science project doesn't happen, but the way that I do that is by reducing the number of food storage containers I have, so that when my food storage container cabinet is empty, or is like, I go to put something in a food storage container and there's like 2 things left in it, and there's normally, I think I might have like 10 or something. When I go to do that, and I realize, oh, well, I need to clean out food storage containers that are in the fridge. And so that prevents it from getting out of control. Does that make sense? So it's like, it's not so much that I have it on the calendar, because I can skip something on a calendar like nobody's business if I don't want to do it. And anyway, but I'm just saying, like, that is how I do it, is this natural flow of things, where before, when I used to have tons of food storage containers, because they're useful, right? And I never have enough. Why do I never have enough? Because they're in the fridge with stuff rotting in them, right? So I would gather those, thinking, well, these are useful. I should have more. And then my fridge was able to get more out of control. Where as long as I have fewer of them, then it's a natural, like, flow in and out of the fridge, because we store something and it's just a natural reminder that, oh, I need to empty some of those, which by that time, usually there's some things that are like, oh man, we missed this or whatever. But having fewer, that's the answer. It is. And I have a video recently where I talk about my strategy, which, if you know me at all, you probably already know this, but it's to store my food storage containers with their lids on, because it makes it so much easier to handle them, because I'm not like having to match things up. I am not able to just have, huge masses of things because they're all stacked together. I can't have as many that way. And that's a lot of people's reason why they're like, oh, that's a terrible idea, because I can't have as many. And I'm like, and yet for me, it makes everything easier, because I can just grab exactly what I need. But also one of the big, huge advantages of storing my food storage containers with their lids on is that I can't have as many. Like, that is good for me. It is helpful for me, which is the container concept in action, right? Like, I'm embracing the realities of my space. I'm also embracing my own clutter threshold, meaning I can't handle having to match up lids and stuff without it being a huge, terrible mess in the actual moment of my real life when I'm looking for a food storage container. Yeah, does that make sense? I hope it does. Okay. Let's see. Okay. My mom has been working on decluttering, but has mobility issues. There are places she physically can't take it there now, like the basement or even higher shelves. She has to wait for my dad to help. What should she do? What should she do for that step instead? Okay. I'm not going to say instead. There's not a instead when you have mobility issues. Instead, instead. Did I just say I'm not going to say instead and then I said instead? It's kind of like what I was just talking about with the clutter threshold. Me having to realize if I have more storage containers, it does not work well for me and my actual way that my brain functions and that I operate in my home. Kind of like with the clothing that we were talking about. If it is out of control, I have too much. And the reason I say this here is this is a very real issue that your mom is facing, and go her for decluttering, and how lovely that you guys are having conversation about it, that you're talking about this, encouraging each other. That's wonderful. So the thing with that is there's not an instead, meaning it's not like, oh, well, then I'm going to set things in a pile for when your dad gets home. Okay. It's looking at it and saying, if I can't get down the stairs physically, then, and this item I would look for down the stairs, but I can't get down the stairs to get it, then maybe it needs to go. Do you see what I'm saying? If it's not something that would actually be where I could access it, does it need to go? And I'm not saying that's an always, it has to go if you can access it. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying it's something to consider. It might mean getting rid of more stuff because we're at a place in our life where we can't access these things easily. All right. It might mean, it also could mean that you skip that item, because that's another option. It is better, in my opinion, and this is all my opinion, right? Okay. But it's also my experience, and based on my experience and working with others and what works. It's better because we are focusing on this space being better and having less in it, as opposed to decluttering it perfectly and having all decisions made correctly and wonderfully and all that kind of stuff. It is better to skip that item, move on, keep doing the things that you can do, that you are able to do, which means that this space is going to be significantly better, right? Where if we get to a thing and we think, but I can't act on this right now, and so I'm stuck, and it is something that you do need to keep in your house, so it's not an option to just declutter it, then it is better to skip that item, keep going, get rid of other things. And then there's something that happens in your brain. I mean, I think most of y'all watching me, if you have tried decluttering at all, you get it, right? You get what I'm saying, that before this space, maybe I didn't think consciously about how it made me feel, but after it's decluttered, I'm like, oh, that looks so much better, right? Even if it's not completely finished. This just looks so much better. So the chances of her of your dad, of her husband being home at a time where she thinks, oh, look how much this looks, look what I've done today. I'm so excited about this space because of all the progress I did make. There are 3 things in here that I would love for you to go take downstairs or put up on the high shelf or whatever. Okay. Does that make sense? So it's like, keep going. Don't let that stop you, but I'm never going to recommend. I mean, you can do what you want. Your mom can do what she wants, but I'm never going to recommend that you make a pile, because the pile is dad comes home, and I don't know the relationship, but I'm just saying, like, dad comes home and she's like, I did all this decluttering, and all he sees is a big pile, and it's like, oh, so and it's overwhelming, and it's something left to do, and it makes the bigger mess. And so we don't want to do that. Right. So that's my advice on that. She could also possibly send him a text, and just say, hey, this thing, and this thing, later, when you get home, would you mind taking these things? I've already, this is where I would take it now. Would you mind doing this, when I get home? But I never recommend that you move it to a second location. I think it's better just to keep on working through the space, because our goal is less and better, right? Our goal is not finished and perfect. Our goal is less and better, which gets us so much closer to finished and perfect than making the goal finished and perfect, right? Okay. Next one. I am noticing that I am starting to keep items, specifically clothing, that I don't like / don't want / refuse to wear / doesn't fit, etc., with the intention of donating the item once I get the replacement item in my possession. In my mind, I am thinking, just get rid of it now. Don't wait. Is this a scarcity mindset? Okay, so I don't know on the scarcity mindset. I mean, that's something I've thought a lot about. Sometimes I talk about it. I'm not a mental health professional, and so I can't say that's what's going on here. But I will say that I do understand this idea of sometimes it feels like saying, oh, I don't need that. Like that is the doing, right? Like I made this decision. Oh, I don't like this. Yeah, that's something that needs to go. And yet we still put it off, right? Like but we don't actually do it right now. I had to realize, and that's what my whole decluttering process is based on, is making a decision and then acting on that decision. Even if it is one small thing, I get so much farther in the process. My house is so much better if I will act on small decisions as I make them, as opposed to making decisions, lots of decisions, but not actually acting on them. Okay. So I think it's like, instead of thinking, what is wrong with me? Go, okay, here's what I'm going to do. Instead of just making decisions, lots of them, I am going to instead act on any small decision that I make and see what a difference this makes in this space. The other thing to remember here too, is that our goal is less, right? Like you are probably working in your closet, or you're in your closet or whatever, and you have that thought, I'm going to get rid of this item, because you're watching me and asking me questions because you're thinking about decluttering, right? Decluttering is having less. And so go ahead and do that, because then it's going to give you a different mindset on what you actually do need and what you actually can handle. As you have less in that space, you're going to like your house more. You're probably going to like your closet more. Your closet's going to be easier to manage, and it's going to start to change your perspective. And there is a good chance that you're going to realize, I don't need to replace all of those items. Or you're going to get rid of a bunch of stuff that you don't like and have this freedom to then be like, okay, you know what? I can now actually justify getting this item that really is what I need and what I will wear and all that, because you've already assessed and gotten rid of and freed up the space to be able to do that. But go ahead and take action, because that taking action is what's really going to change your mindset and your home. All right. As long as we're just thinking about things, our homes don't actually change. It's only when you actually start getting stuff out of the house, that is when your mindset and your brain starts changing and your home starts changing. Okay. There's nothing so powerful as the decluttering momentum that comes when you start to experience how much easier it is to live in a house with less stuff. I mean, like I have over on a slobcomesclean.com, that's, where I started, not thinking I would ever talk about this stuff to anybody who would ever want to listen, but like I was just chronicling, typing out what I was going through and what I was doing in my house. And so in that, I write about like these moments of realization of like, okay, this was so much easier because I had so much less stuff, where it surprised me. I literally did not realize how much easier life was going to be, how it was going to change my perspective on what I did need and what I didn't need to have less stuff. Okay. So my hope in what I do here is that I can make it go faster for you, right? By sharing what it is that I've gone through. All right. Let's see. How do I fight? I'm sorry. How do I fight the urge to work in non-visible spaces to make room for the things in visible spaces? Thank you. Thank you. I'm so glad I found someone who I can relate to with these challenges I have. Okay, first of all, I mean, I have the visibility rule, and I know that's why you're asking this. I have the visibility rule, which is declutter invisible spaces first, because that is going to impact my home. I'm going to feel better about my home. I'm going to be inspired to declutter again sooner because I'm like, oh, that looks so good, which makes me then want to do it. When I declutter non-visible spaces and I work all day and I get sweaty and gross and dusty, and I'm like, oh man, I did a lot. And then I look around and my house is a disaster. I'm like, well, that, it just, whether I say it or think it in words or not, it just kind of is like, well, what was the point of all of that? My house doesn't look any better. I'm still embarrassed to have someone over when I've spent all this time working. So anyway, that is my visibility rule. But anytime you declutter, you're doing great. Like, I'm proud of you. Like, so you can declutter whatever you want, wherever you want, and I'm going to be happy for you. Okay. I have the visibility rule because it is a very definite way to perpetuate that decluttering energy that feels so fleeting for people like me. For the overwhelmed person, my house used to just, the entire thing was a disaster. So it was like, I had to have a place to start because it felt like I do a little bit here and a little bit there and a little bit there. So following the visibility rule was very helpful for me. It's very helpful for a lot of people. But I always want to clarify, as long as you're decluttering, yay. But here's how I would answer this from my perspective, okay? Because I know what you're saying, is to remember that because we're taking things there now, which prevents us from having piles or boxes full of stuff to do after we're done, which is meaning we're not actually done, right? As long as we're taking it there now, then we are actually embracing the reality of our actual situation and our space and our home. And when you take it there now, that non-visible place where you would look for it first, if your visible space was the way that you wanted it to be, that non-visible space, if that space is full, then you're going to get to that place. And in order to take it there now, you're going to remove something from that space, which is decluttering that space. You're not going to stop and declutter that space if you're using my process, okay? But you are going to declutter, because decluttering is just removing things that don't need to be in that space. Take something out, and that's going to create the space for this. Then you're going to go back to the space where you were originally working, which is where your trash bag and your donate box are, and put those items in those spaces and get back to that space. It's a way to process it and have it be a real momentum builder and to avoid doing a little bit here, a little bit there, a little bit here, a little bit there. Okay. That's the overall way that I do things for that purpose. Okay. So you are decluttering those less visible spaces as you come across something that needs to go in that space and, be there. Now, sometimes it will be like, okay, this large item, this crock pot, that I use all the time, but I don't want it to, it's just been floating around on the counters of my kitchen and I don't want that. So where would I look first for this? Well, I would look first, if my kitchen counter was clear, I would look first in this space. But when I open up that space, it is, you know, full of, I'm making stuff up off the top of my head. It is full of what? Skillets. Okay. It's full of skillets. So I can't put it in there. Okay. Well, I might have to remove 6 skillets out of the 9 that are in there in order to make room for this crock pot. I mean, that may be, but that is space for space. Okay. So as I'm doing that, I am putting this item away. I am creating the room for it, but I'm not getting distracted by another decluttering project. Okay. Let's see. Let's see here. Okay, you talk about doing the dishes every day as part of your daily routine to help cut down on clutter. In our house, however, our children are in charge of doing the dishes. It is important to us to give them this responsibility and others around the house. What would be a different daily go-to decluttering step I could do instead of dishes that would help keep the house under control? Okay, so couple things here. Okay, I just want to clarify. I'm so sorry, y'all, but I feel like my nose is a little. This is live. All right. Couple things I want to clarify here. So the dishes routine does cut down on clutter, but it is not, its main purpose is not decluttering. The dishes routine is the deciding factor between a house that's out of control and a house that's under control. Okay. So the reason I think it's important to say that is I don't know the whole situation here. So you say your kids are in charge of that, which is awesome. And that's great. If it's getting done perfectly, then keep on doing, then let me answer it that way. Okay. So let's say that the kids are in charge of that. And so dishes are always done. All right. Then you specifically asked about a way to, you know, cut down on clutter. The 5-minute pickup is the number one thing. That is also one that is really great. And I would say even important to, in as much as you can, involve everybody who lives in the house in that 5-minute pickup. That will really help with clutter. Okay. If clutter is the issue, that is the number one daily routine. Okay. Like, yes, declutter, get stuff out, but daily routine that will make a huge difference there. So that would be a 5-minute pickup, which means we're picking stuff up and putting it away. But when we do that every single day, we may find that after 3 minutes, we've gotten all the stuff that just was out for this day put away. So I can take the next 2 minutes to go a little bit deeper and be like, okay, well, then I'm going to tackle this visible space and throw away a little trash in there. Or I did that yesterday and today I've got 2.5 minutes. So I'm going to throw away 1 piece of trash and to see if there's any easy stuff in here. And so really that will be something that will help you keep on top of clutter, is that 5-minute pickup. Other thing I'm going to say is it's possible that if for some people, okay, and I say this because I know it's a real challenge for a lot of people, but if your kids are in charge of the dishes, but the dishes aren't getting done consistently, then the thing for you to do would be to say, okay, then my focus is going to be on managing that. Okay. So of the reminding and all that kind of stuff, because you didn't clarify, are dishes under control, or is it just that that's the kid's job? Do you know what I mean? And I say this because I hear this a lot from people. They're like, I have given that job to someone else because, you know, that's the way it should be, or because we had a conversation and we agreed to this. But if they're not getting done, the house is never going to feel under control. Okay. And so what could be your focus would be the reminding and the managing and all that kind of stuff. And then once that's under control and that is consistently happening, then, move on to the 5-minute pickup. Okay. But I just want to be clear that dishes is not a decluttering technique. It's the actual pivotal thing for a house being under control or not. Okay. Now, where doing the dishes every day contributes to decluttering is just like we talked about with clothing in the beginning. If you're overwhelmed by dishes, having fewer dishes is going to make doing the dishes less overwhelming because you won't be able to go as long. Kind of like with the same thing with the storage containers. Like all this is very similar. What we're talking about today is routines plus decluttering and how those things work together. Having fewer dishes is going to make it easier to keep the dishes done. Doing the dishes is going to give you the confidence to get rid of dishes because you'll first of all start to see which are the ones that we actually use all the time. That's what happened to me. I don't know, there's a post on my blog from 2009 when I was, first starting. I think I had 5 or 6 full sets of dishes to the point where they were crammed in there, which you can't really cram dishes, right? You can cram clothing, but you can't really cram dishes. And when every single thing was clean, there really wasn't room for everything. Once I got dishes under control, then I was like, oh, and I got rid of, and at this point, we just have one set of plates and then some other ones that are sentimental to me that we use sometimes, but because I have room, so I can keep them, right? So it's like that habit and the decluttering, they work. So decluttering makes your habits easier to maintain. Habits maintain the progress that you made with decluttering, and those things work together. So yeah, there we go. Okay. Let's see, comments. It's always a little scary when I haven't been seeing comments to think if y'all are going, oh yes, you can cram dishes. You can, but they break. And don't think I haven't had that happen. Let's see. Staying on to the top of the dishes really opens your eyes to the fact that you simply have too many. Okay. My crock pot sits on my counter. I don't have the room in my cabinets. I'm now sitting here staring at it, wishing it could be put away. Yeah. So where would you look for it first if your counter was not covered in a crock pot? And then go to that space and make the room for it. Make some hard decluttering decisions because you can be like, it's not me. I would keep all of that stuff. I think it all has value. It's just the space. This is the size of the space. So I have to remove something in order to put the crock pot in there. Okay. How to declutter more when your containers aren't full anymore and things are in their place, like clothes in a not full closet. Okay. So remember, the container concept is the concrete way for you to declutter. So that's what I recommend starting with, which it sounds like you've already done that, meaning like my spaces, I have embraced the reality of my space and I've gotten rid of stuff, but I still feel like I need to get rid of more. Well, at this point, be thinking of your clutter threshold, okay? Everything you get rid of is something you never have to touch again. You never have to think about again. You never have to clean again. You never have to maintain. That is your clutter threshold. Okay. So if you are still feeling overwhelmed, that is the definition of clutter to me, is if anything continually gets out of control, I have too much stuff in that space. All right. So as long as you're feeling overwhelmed or that space is getting out of control, get rid of stuff until it's easy and basically feels like it stays under control. But really, it's staying under control because it's under your clutter threshold. It's the amount of stuff that you personally can easily keep under control in your home. All right. Oh, I love this. Went from 5 sets to 2. Exactly. Let's see. Husband is applying for jobs that require a move, focus on visible spaces, or declutter closets to have less to move. Yes. I mean, here's the thing. A move is, oh, I'm sorry. Even an exciting move is so stressful, right? So the first thing I would do, because you are just in a place where you're thinking about it, right? Okay. So okay, I was gonna take that down. Sorry. There we go. Because you are in a place where you are thinking about it, go ahead and just start getting rid of stuff. Like either or. I mean, I'm always going to say visible first, because if there's stuff visible that needs to be decluttered, you really don't want to move that, right? Like, I mean, you don't want to just, unless you're in a place where you think, okay, everything as my house is right now, I would totally pack. Okay, then start in those closets. But if your visible spaces need to be decluttered, go ahead and declutter those first. Just because it's going to have you have so much better idea of what you have, what you don't need. It's going to make it easier to live in your home. It's going to make it easier for you to be ready for selling your house if that's something that's part of this. So go ahead and do that, and then work in those closets and things, because you're going to have to get to all of it anyway. That's the thing about moving, is you literally touch every single thing in your house. So go ahead and how many of us have been in a situation where we thought we were going to move and then it didn't necessarily happen, or it didn't happen at the time when we thought it was going to. So work on those visible spaces. Use this inspiration. I think you're going to be grateful that you did. Okay. Comments back to there. I had 2 annoying corner cabinets in my kitchen that are just awful. I cleared them out totally and turned them into kids' nooks. It's been great. I love it. If something is overwhelming to you, if it gets on your nerves, get rid of stuff. Like, it's amazing how that really makes a huge impact. At what point in working with my own clutter am I allowed to expect everyone in the house to partake in a nightly 5-minute pickup? Okay, I don't know in this situation if you are, I don't know. I don't know if you're the mother, I don't know, whatever, but it depends on what your role in this. Are you the person who gets to say, I need you to pick this up, blah, blah, blah? Then, I mean, I would say day one. I mean, 5-minute pickup is not decluttering. It helps with decluttering. It can be very useful, but it is a daily habit. So if you can start it today, even if you're like, my house is a total disaster, 5 minutes will make literally no difference. You can start it today. Like, so, but the whole expect thing is, it really depends on your role in this. Are you the oldest daughter? Are you the youngest daughter? Are you, what? I have no idea. But if you are the person who manages the house, then, I mean, day one would be the day. Okay. Let's see. I love that. So we plan to retire in about 3 years or just a bit less. While I'd like to do it all at once, I'm addressing targets of opportunities as circumstances present. I love it. Okay. Let's see. Looking for questions. This always makes me nervous, because I'm like, what if I read a question that I really can't answer? And when it's live, I've already put it up on there and you're going to know that I ignored it. Okay, here we go. I've made so much progress with my house and my life is so much easier. My sister, who is very similar to me, has hoarded her entire house full. My niece has no room to, and I can't see what else there is, but I can get the gist. All right. Again, this kind of depends on the type of relationship that you have with your sister, right? I don't have a sister. I always find it fascinating to be around sisters. So, I mean, I honestly feel like this is not something I, with no sisters, can really answer, because I am always surprised and shocked at how sisters talk to each other, but whatever. So I'm just saying, y'all know what I'm talking about, right? Oh my word. The summer that my husband and I, became official, I was in 2 weddings that were like with 2 sisters. And I was like, I told my husband, I was like, I don't care. We're going to have at least 1 boy, because I had never been around sisters like that before. And I was shocked. Anyway, that's not what the question was. And those people with sisters are always usually like, yeah, exactly. But they can also be incredibly loving. And so I do miss that part of having it. But anyway, so there's nothing you can do. You can't change other people, and it's not your house. I bring up the sisters thing because I don't know what kind of a relationship you have, but I do know that pretty much nobody takes it well to be told things harshly. Okay. Even by somebody who is, who loves them and cares about them and all that kind of stuff. So I would focus on your own, keep on focusing on your own stuff, talk about it openly, talk about not just look what I've done, but also talk about what has been hard for you. What things were you not able to do? And yet you did this other thing and it really did make an impact, even though you're not quite ready to do this hard. So be very honest and open about how hard it is. That's what I hear from people all the time is like, I would say, I get emails, messages from people literally all the time and who've read my books or videos or whatever. And it is not that they say, you finally told me how to do this. It's that they say, I finally feel like someone understands where I'm coming from. That is the thing that people tell me all the time made the difference for them. Like whatever it is that they're telling me usually involves some version of that sentence. I finally feel like someone understands where I'm coming from. And so the reason I bring that up here is you do understand. You're her sister. You said you've been decluttering in your own house, so you've made progress. I'm just saying, like, that is so powerful. And so sharing your own progress, offering to help, but doing it in this way. Use the 5-step process. If you don't have it, go to aslobcomesclean.com/5, F-I-V-E. It's right there. And you can get a printable of that and just follow those because those are non-emotional, they're non-judgmental. And it's a kind of like a thing outside of yourself instead of just saying, do this. You're like, well, this Dana lady who she really understands how hard it is. Okay. She says step 1 is trash. All right. So let's look for trash. There's just something about kind of taking it away out of that relationship. I know I didn't get to read all of your question, but I'm just saying that's, in my experience, that's honestly what helps a lot. Okay. Any advice on how to become brutal in getting rid of stuff without selling it? I would feel better if I could get some money back as it feels less wasteful. Is it really worth selling versus donating? I don't want to say it's never worth selling because you might be the one person who actually has something super valuable that you get rid of. But go ahead and start donating anything that you can, because that's what made me realize donating was more valuable to me than selling, because donating let me get more stuff out faster and easier, more quickly and more easily. And because I did that, I started to go, wow, I love my house. This house being under control and not having stuff in it, that's valuable to me. And then I was willing to get rid of stuff, to donate things that I once would have thought I needed to sell, because I was like, yeah, I might be able to get $30 for that, but this empty space and me being able to move and function more easily, totally worth at least $30, probably $100 to me. You know what I mean? Like, so it just changed my perspective on that. Also, I think I have a video coming out on this at some point this year. It's to check on eBay, go to completed listings. If you're hung up on something, go to the completed listings and find out how much actual people in the real world are actually paying for this item that you think is worth so much, because you might be right and find out. And you also very likely could be wrong about at least some of it. And you'll realize, oh, I thought this was valuable because so-and-so always said it was valuable. And yet people aren't buying it at all, or, maybe 1 out of 4 sold or something like that. So that's a quick, easy way to kind of break through that. Let's see. Okay. Any more questions? Okay. So you got honest. When can I expect you can't expect it. I mean, I'm going to tell you, it tends to happen. I hear from people all the time that say, I have worked on my own stuff. It tends to happen. But no, there's no way to expect it. And so, because if you expect it, if I tell you a certain time, oh, after 3 months, then things are going to, you may just well be disappointed. So instead, keep working on your own stuff, keep working on neutral stuff, and your house will get better. And also, it will also help you to kind of, it really changed my perspective on other people's stuff as I got rid of my own stuff and got rid of stuff. Like really, somebody was talking about, how do I get more ruthless? How do I get more brutal with getting rid of my own stuff? As I did that, as I experienced that pain, it also, helped me have a little more sympathy, for other people who were having a hard time getting rid of their stuff too. Okay. Looking for other questions. See, I'm just telling you, this is the sister thing. Sisters can say things no one else can. I don't have a sister. When I hear sisters say certain things, I'm like, okay, I'm good. It's like my best friend and I used to be like, oh, she's like a sister. And then I got to be around a lot of sisters like, no, sorry. There's nothing like a sister in my experience. Not my personal experience, but, oh, that was the same one. Anybody else? Questions? Y'all are talking among each other. It always makes me so happy to see y'all talking among each other. Okay. Oh, it's already 12:51 anyway. So there we go. And several of you are recommending a hoarder's heart. So that would be a great. I have not watched, but go and check it out if that is something that okay. All right. I am going to stop there. Don't forget, if you would like to ask questions for a future live, you can go to askdanikWhite.com. Oh, and don't forget too that I'm working like crazy on my certification. So that is not me being certified, but like offering a certification for those who want to help others, possibly turn it into their own business. They can do whatever they want with it. But this is going to be a training course and a certification program. So my plan is to launch that on December 1st, if everything comes together the way that it's scheduled to come together. And that means that I am going to be running a pre-order starting, I think, next Monday is the plan. If I can get confirmation that everything that's supposed to happen by December 1st is really going to happen by December 1st, I will probably start pre-orders then. But if you go to aslobcomesclean.com/certification, that will take you to a place where you can sign up for a newsletter specifically to be notified when the launch happens. So I'm really excited about that. It's going to be great. So here we go. I will talk to y'all next week. Bye.